All right, shalom, shalom. It's the brother Kadash. I want to give our praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Requa, Quadash. We're gonna jump straight into it, and it's just to ask the question. Was the Native Americans, was American land sold to British settlers? Is that how what you call America today was established? There's a guy on here. This is on one of Vocab Malone videos. There were some comments going back and forth, so we're just gonna go through the sick, very sick, and I could say this, because it just started off as a conversation, but he's giving his opinions with no facts, and it's very sickening to see how he's trying to justify everything. But the scriptures talk about this. The scriptures talk about, roughly paraphrasing, when the elect comes back down to inherit the earth, right? That the other nations, we just read about this in Revelations, probably Revelations 10. It probably speaks about it, which we could try finding it, right? It speaks about how they're not going to be repenting, how they're not going to be accepting, and they're still not going to take fault for what they did, even though they're going to be judged by it. I believe it's in the book of Revelations, but I got a couple good precepts. So let's go straight into this little comment. Yeah, right here. Revelations chapter 9. We had just went to it, right? And I'm going to start at verse 20. It says, "And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands." See, because they're going to justify what they did, which was still in the land of America, right? We know that's the real way that America was inquired. And killing, murdering, raping, robbing, deceitfulness, iniquity, same thing they did to the so-called black slaves, right? It says, "Not of works of their hands, that they shall not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders." So they're not going to repent of these murders. They're going to justify, hey, it was war, and the winter took everything. "Nor of their sorceries," the sorcery, some of the biological warfare, some of the things they did, the false flag attacks, some, just giving you a couple examples, like Black Wall Street, some of the things they're not going to repent of them. It says, "Nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts." Key word, nor of their thefts. They're not going to repent for stealing land, right? Because what he's saying is pretty much how they're going to start thinking, and how they have been thinking, that the land was sold. They didn't steal it, right? Now this says, now let's just get straight into it, because this could be edifying to actually go through history, and I'm going to actually pull out some history so we can get some facts, because he has none. This is a guy called Old Boy Accent Liquid Rage, right? It says, "Because they are spreading hate, emphasize infinite violence and rape because of the way they interpret the holy scriptures. They destroy families, take fathers away from their kids. They are evil." Okay, so let's just see, because maybe, let's just say if he has some truth in there, right? Now let's just see what Yahweh Shai said. Is it about spreading hate, or is it about spreading the truth? Sometimes the truth could come off as hate, but the truth is more important, right? Now this is Luke chapter 12, right? Verse 51. This is red letter. It says, "Suppose ye that I am come to give peace on earth? I tell you, nay, but rather division." Right? So he said, look, they're destroying families, take fathers away from them. The Lord said, look, and this is pretty much talking about the truth, because the Lord, you got to remember, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, he is the word, right? So he said, look, he ain't come to give peace on the earth, but rather division. It says, from henceforth there should be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, 2 against 3. The fathers should be divided against the son. Didn't he just say they take fathers away from their kids? It says, "And the son against their father, the mother against thy daughter, and the daughter against thy mother, and mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." And he said also to the people, "When ye see a cloud rise off the west, straightway ye say, there cometh a shower, and so it is. And when ye see the soft wind blow, ye say, there will be heat, and it comes to pass. Ye hypocrites." And this is what this guy is. That's the perfect word. Very hypocrite, right? Because he's saying all these things, listing all these things, right, to go against us and saying why we're so bad and that we're evil. But the same place that he loved and that he's defending so much, America, was built on those things, which makes him a hypocrite, right? So it says, ye hypocrites, ye could discern the face of the sky and of the earth, but how is it that ye do not discern this time, right? So let's go through some of the comments. All right, let me see where we started. Okay, so this is me responding an hour ago. I said more like spreading truth, right? Because it's more about spreading truth, whether you interpret that as being hate or not. It says, so that's what we're going off. We're not going off your feelings. It's really about what's the truth or not. It says, for example, America was established on all those things you listed, right? Do you love America, right? Just trying to get him to admit that he's a hypocrite, right? So he takes this road to say, no, America was established by descendants of Britons, French, Scots, right? Europeans who broke away from British monarchy, right? Because of harsh taxation after winning the war against French and natives, right? Right. So I said, okay. I said, and how did they get possession of the land to establish what you have today is America? So you have to remember you got federal laws. Federal is over all 50 states, America, right? So you can't possibly say, but we'll play along, but you can't possibly say or think that every Native American sold all the land right now that's under federal jurisdiction of what you call today America. You know, so I mean that's blasphemy, but we'll keep going. It says, he said it was sold to them by natives, maybe different places, you know, was sold, you know, and stuff like that. But was all the land for them to have federal jurisdiction over all the land? Was it all sold for this whole land to be known as the United States of America? You have no proof of that, so you're just talking out your ass. It says, then there was a great war to settle, so was more worthy of the land than the winner won and the loser lost. But what did the Lord say? That doesn't matter because you're stronger and you were able to take the land. You still took the land. Of course, if I'm walking down the street and I see an old lady and I'm stronger than her and I could take her purse, are you going to then say, oh, well, look, the winner, the stronger person won. So it's justified that he took her purse because he's the stronger person. You know, so it's justified. If you get robbed, or you gonna say, hey man, look, they was able to take my shit. They was able to take my money. They were stronger than me. So it's justified because they were just stronger than me. That's pretty much what you're saying. But what did the Lord say to another man that stealeth another man's land? You know? You have a lot of weaker nations, but that don't give you the right to just go steal their land and take their land. You got a lot of African nations, right? Okay, so what you're saying is pretty much what's going on in Ukraine right now is a good thing. It's okay because Russia is stronger than them and they're taking land little by little and they're taking over. If they're pretty much evading them little by little, you're pretty much saying that that's okay then because they're just a stronger military. You know, let's keep going. It says, so so let's agree to that, right? So, you know, future prophecy is that the Lord is going to come back and he's going to be the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, right? He's going to set up his kingdom on earth. So when the Lord and his elect come back, then you should have no problem with getting in order in line under us, man. You should have no problem with going into slavery under us. You should just say, look, they're stronger. They destroyed America and they took the land back and they took rulership over the earth. Let me get in line. You should have no problem with that then. If we're going to go by that logic, you see how dumb that logic is? Right? So this is me responding back to him. I said you should do more research because that's not true. All of America was not sold to British settlers, right? It says the land stolen by them, that was the reason for war. If it was all sold, then what was the reason for war? It was just, look, they paid us, we satisfied with our payment, now the land belongs to them. What Native American groups, because there was different groups, are you saying that they just sold all these different tribes, just came together and was like, man, let's sell all our land. Let's sell all of it. So you can have something called federal jurisdiction over all 50 states. That's all the land over here in America. They could just say, look, let's just sell all our land. Come on, that sounds dumb, right? So I said, look, you should do more research. The land stolen by them That's the reason for the war, duh. And America was built on the backs of slaves, right? And we're going to get some accounts, right? And it says slaves were forced, killed, raped, and all those things listed, right? So the facts, the truth of it is that's correct. Slaves were forced, killed, raped. But he likes to justify it by going down a different road, which is going down a rabbit hole, what they say, It says here's one example you should look into. And of course it's the Trail of Tears, which we're going to get into that. But this is what he wrote back. He said, common misconception, the land was sold to settlers in parts were built for more settlers to come. Then kidnapping started happening. Native tribes start undermining each other, causing war, and everything turned into a battle. French and Indian war. The French and Indian lost to the British. The tougher, more stronger opponents won, and that's that. That's a bad logic, man. That's a very bad logic. That doesn't make it right. America's stronger than a lot of nations. Well, than all of them. I mean, if you want to be correct, America's stronger than a lot of Nigeria. So is it okay if America just goes over there and take Nigeria? America's stronger than the Israelis. Is it okay if they just go over there and take the land? Okay, so then if we're gonna say that, then if Iran is stronger than Israeli and Iran could take it and blow it up like how they say they're gonna blow that motherfucker up, right? Then you should be on the side of Iran. You should be like, hey, look, that's okay. They're stronger because they're stronger. That justify them being able to take it. You see the problem, man? But you commenting on, obviously, a video that's talking about, this is all centered around the Bible, right? So we're going to get into the Bible too, like we have been. And he says, slaves didn't exactly do amazing work. They were used for agriculture, which was the most important thing during that time. So that's just your opinion. That's your perception on if it was amazing work or not. And maids and most they contribute to the economy had to do with being sold. Everything else was done. The stock market was, established, right? So on the backs of slaves. So should you be protesting against the stock market? And the stock market is one of the biggest things about America. I mean, yeah. Now it says, they contribute to the economy had to do with being sold. Everything else was done and made on the backs of hardworking foreigners like my great-great-great-grandfather who came here in 1840s and worked along the Chinese on the railroad. It says you also forgot blacks were the first to be very good at slave breeding. Ha ha ha. So what does all this have to do with if the British Europeans stole American land, raped and murdered natives or in the blacks, slaves? What does this have to do? That it doesn't. He's trying to take. That's diverting. He's diverting. America wasn't the only country that has slaves. What does this have to do with America having slaves? There's many countries that have slaves throughout history. Are we going to get to talking about Egypt now? You want to start talking about Egypt and their slaves? No, we're talking about America, man. See, and this is the bullshit they do. So the rest of what he's saying don't even mean that. You also forgot natives were not peace-loving weed smoke. What does that have to do with Europeans stealing, killing, and raping and murdering? So I said, can you show any proof of that all of what is America today was sold by natives? Can you show proof that all America, that we call America today, the United States of America, was sold by the natives? It says, so you're saying none of the land was stolen. It was all brought and paid for. Let's focus on what the settlers did. Did they steal land and rape, rob, and kill natives and slaves? And I said, was black slaves and Native Americans forced into slavery, just straight to the point, raped and murdered by British, French, Scotch settlers, yes or no? Because that's what the original question that I asked, that's what it comes down to. All this other stuff is called diverting. It's just that simple. So if you're getting mad at us and you're listing these things while we're so evil, but you love America and America was established on all of those things, it simply makes you a hypocrite, right? So let's hold right here. Okay, so there's always two sides to the story, right? So this is Native Voices. There's a website, Native Voices, and this is just like a timeline, right? And this is some of the things that's on the timeline, right? So just a little history here. This says 1763, Treaty of Paris in Paris in war. British claims native lands. It says England and France ended the 7-Year War, right? It says also called the French and Indian War, right? And the Treaty of Paris, right? Also called the Peace of Paris of the Treaty of 1763. France cedes its claims to most of North America east of the Mississippi to Britain. Wait, I thought they sold the land. No, this is them just claiming it. It says, but in Ohio, in Ottawa, Chief Pontiac continues warring with the British over taking the native lands. Wait, so why are natives going to war over British taking their lands if they sold it to them? Do you understand what selling something to somebody is? They'll give me $1 billion and I'm going to give you all this land east of the Mississippi River. There's no war. We made an agreement. Why are they going to war? They're going to war because they're claiming the land and then taking it, meaning they're stealing it, and then the natives are trying to hold on to what belongs to them by fighting for it. That's what the war is for. Duh. So let's get some more. Man, sick, man. And he can't admit this, and he would never admit this. That's why we're getting proof, because he wants to go with his agenda that nothing bad was done and they're good and that we're evil, right? So man like him he's going to be put straight to death. When the large true people, the true Israelites, which are Native Americans, Latinos, and so-called Negroes, the so-called black slaves, right? When we get into power, there's going to be no arguing with him. He's just going to be put straight to death. He's not even going to make a good slave. He's just going to be put straight to death. It says the British give smallpox, right? This is in 1763 to 64, right? It says the British give smallpox contaminated blankets to Shawnee and Lipnett, Delaware communities. An action sanctioned by the British officer Sir Geoffrey Amherst. So it even got the name. So this is what they are putting up here on their site right now. There's other sites that say, yeah, they downplay it, right? They say the whole smallpox thing was only given to a small portion and it was downplayed. They admit that it happened and that it was done, but they just downplayed the severity of it, right? But let's hear the other side of the story. It says, so they got the name. It says in his replacement, General Thomas Gage, right? It says, out of our regard to them, we gave them, so they got a quote, gave them 2 blankets, right, and a handkerchief out of Smallpox Hospital. I hope it will have the desired effect. An eyewitness quoted in Elizabeth A. Finn, Pox Americana, the smallpox epidemic. And you could get so much more research on that, but we're just touching on these things to give out accounts just in case he didn't know. Hopefully this could be edifying, right? So with smallpox, right, man, look, if it's just like what happened during the pandemic, right? One person get it, that turns to 5, that could turn to 20, that could turn to 100, and next thing you know, look what happened, which I'm not going to speak on it, during the pandemic we just got done through. That was worldwide. Started out in a little small spot, and then it became worldwide. And smallpox is way more deadly. I think it's like 30% or something like that of people that get it dies. So it's way more deadly. Now, let's keep going. Let's get some more accounts. So they got all the accounts right here on this page. Go to Native Voices, right? This is 1763. Indian proclamation line ignored. So wait, they had lines, right? This is our land. This is us. Don't go past this. The shit was getting ignored. Does that sound like they just was selling land? Right? It says settlers moved west. After the 7 Years' War, the British Parliament, right, creates the Indian Proclamation Line of 1763, which bans colonists from settling west of the Middle Appalachian Mountains. Sorry for my pronunciation, y'all know. American words, I just really don't, It says English settlers ignored the line, spanning west and inciting conflicts with Native people over land. So they were inciting conflicts with Native people over land in Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, other western regions, right? By 1763, most of North America is claimed, in some cases governed by European colonial powers, including British, France, and Spain. So let's. So what he's saying, right? It was just sold. This misconception the land was just sold to them, right? It doesn't match up with history. It more matches up to what I was saying. The land was stolen. Let's see if we got anything else on here. 1763, armed Russian fur traders massacre Unanigan, which is, let me see, a man, a woman, and children. Retaliation for their resistance to sexual exploitation. You got a woman, sorry, forever. Let's see what else we got on here, because I got one more other thing. British stopped protecting American colonies from native attacks. Why were they attacking them? Because they were taking their land. They were stealing their resources, man. Here I got one more. So this is just a couple accounts, right? This is the Trail of Tears. This is account. So this was in 1830 and through 1850, right? It says the Trail of Tears was a series of forced displacements of approximately 60,000 indigenous people of the 5 civilized tribes, right? Between 1830 and 1850 by the United States government, right? Part of the Indian removal, the ethnic cleansing was gradual, occurring over a period of nearly 2 decades. Members of the so-called 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokees, the Samoans, the Chickasaw, and the Choctaw nations, including thousands of their black slaves, right, were forcibly removed from their ancestral homelands in the southeastern United States to areas to the west of the Mississippi River, forcibly removed, that had been designed Indian territory. So they were forcibly removed in the Indian Removal Act, right? Now I understand they had slaves, and that's what he was trying to go into a rabbit hole, pretty much like, yeah, but they had slaves, and they did this and they did that, but that doesn't justify what your people did. If he is an Edomite, which are the so-called Caucasians, that doesn't justify what the Caucasians did, the Europeans did. It's just because if you were wrong, like if 2 wrongs don't make a right, let's just say that, right? 2 wrongs don't make a right. That don't justify. That's like saying, okay, if the Lord comes back or well, let's just say if the Black Panthers would have grew and they would have took over America, would you have said that was okay? Well, because look what America did to the Native Americans. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Just a quick example, right? But it says the Cherokee removal in the 1838, the last forced removal east of the Mississippi River was brought on by the discovery of gold. So just because they discovered gold, not because they bought the land, said, look, we're going to buy this land and y'all got to relocate out our land when we purchase our land. No, it's because they discovered gold and they said, look, we finna go remove them and we finna take it, right? So really, the gold there belonged to the Native Americans. So that's robbery. They robbed them of the gold and forced them off the land. Let me see what else I got. Just a little bit more history. This says, by the time the Civil War came to an end, and this is just an article that I found, the invasion of America, right? Now it says, by the time the Civil War came to an end in 1865, it had consumed the lives of 800,000 Americans, or 2.5% of the population, according to the recent estimates. If slavery was a moral failing, right, said Lincoln. So even Lincoln admitting, so you're going to go against history. That's what that guy's doing. It says in his second inauguration address, then the war was the woe due to those by who the offenses came. The rupture between North and South forced white Americans to confront the nation's deep investment in slavery. So the nation had a deep investment in slavery, which what goes into slavery? Rape, murder, robbery, right? It says to emancipate and incorporate 4 million individuals. They did not do so willingly. And the reconstruction of the nation is in many ways still unfolding. By contrast, I mean, even today, man, these things are still happening and they have to pay for these things. So, I mean, this is going on a little bit of history, but the Native Americans clearly had their land stolen. It says, yet Native people are central to nation history as late of 1750, some 150 years after British established Jamestown, fully 250 years after Europeans first set foot on the continent. They constituted a majority of the population of North America. In fact, not equally reflected in textbooks even a century later. I'm not going to be doing too much reading. Let's see. So they became a minority where they were a majority. You know that. So that just happened because they sold their land. You see how dumb that sounds, right? Let's see what. Man, it's just more and more and more and more history, right? It says the invasion of America captures not the vanishing Indian, but the expansion U.S. from its origins in 1776 as a slander brand of states pressed along the Atlantic to its coast to coast integration of the fourth largest nation in the world. The sites allow users to move through the land sessions to search, pretty much just a little history. That's what I wanted to do. Just pull a couple accounts like the Trail of Tears and give a little history that clearly points and show that America wasn't just sold to settlers and they just came together and built imports for more settlers to come and then just freely get this land and then have a place called America today. So let's get this account out of the Bible now. Um, okay, man. I didn't even hit the record button, so I don't know what all I got on there, but I'm just gonna grab a couple precepts and end it out here. Let's see. I'm gonna read Habakkuk 2 again because I'm not sure. Maybe I might be repeating it, but I'm not sure if I even got it. So here's Habakkuk 2, starting at verse 5. It says, yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, he's a proud man, neither keep at home, who enlarges his desire as hell. We seen that with those so-called European British settlers, which are Edomites. They didn't want to keep at home, right? It says, and it's as death, and a lot of death came with that when they came over here to the Americas. That's why this land's going to be destroyed, and no man's ever going to dwell on this land. It says, and cannot be satisfied, but gather into him all nations, which, America is a place where you have all nations that come together, right? It says, and heap into him all people. Should not all these take up a proverb against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long to him that letteth himself with thick clay? So woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, which we got some of those accounts where the Native Americans had boundaries, but they were coming and stealing their land and crossing those boundaries and forcibly removing them during the Indian Removal Act, and they were taking the gold. That's rape, robbery, and murder right there. It says, should not they rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and shall wait that shall vex thee? And thou shalt be booties unto them, because thou hast spoiled many nations. The Native Americans, look what they were. Look what they are today. They were spoiled. Same thing with the so-called Negroes, which are really the tribe of Judah from Israel. It says, all the remnant of thy people shall spoil thee because of man's blood and for the violence of the land. That's how America was established, through blood and violence. And of the city and all that dwell therein. Woe to him that covetousness, a evil covetousness, because that's exactly what that is. To his house, that he may set his nest on high. So today, we're the great America, the United States, right? They set their nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people. We call ourselves black today because we were a people that was cut off from our true heritage of being the Israelites. It says, and has sinned against thy soul, for the stone shall cry out the wall, and the beam shall cry out the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establish a city with iniquity, which is exactly how America was established, with blood and iniquity. And it says, woe to him. This is Isaiah 13. I ended off right here. Verse 19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, this is talking about Mystery Babylon, which is America. You can read about it in Revelation 17:18. Mystery Babylon, right? And the beauty of the Chaldeans' ecstasy shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Because the same way fire and brimstone rained down on Sodom and Gomorrah, those nuclear missiles is going to rain down on America. It even talks about the Medes, which is talking about Russia, of course, in verse 17. Those missiles are going to rain down on America and destroy America. It's the same thing, right? That you read about in Revelations chapter 6 prophesies of it. Revelations chapter 8 prophesies of it. Isaiah 34, it says, it shall never be inhabited, right? Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall Arabian pitch tent there. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Why? Because of all the Israelite blood that's been shed on this land. There's going to be a great sacrifice and cleansing on this land, and then it's going to be made to a desert. No humans ever going to live on this land again. Verse 21, but the wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. So it's the same thing happened in Egypt. Egypt was destroyed, and they built a city back around it, but look how it looks today. Just like a desert. But that's how the whole land of America gonna be, just a complete desert, because they did steal the land, because they did rape and they did kill the Lord's people, man. It speaks about it. Here, let me see. So there's a judgment that comes from that. This is Joel 3, straight to the point, right? Verse 4, yeah, what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me recompense? If ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem shall have ye sold into the Grecians, right, which are the Edomites, which are the Caucasians, the Europeans, the British, they're Edomites, that ye might remove them far from their borders. And shit, even the Caucasians, they came over to America, and they did this to the Native Americans during the Indian Removal Act. They removed them far from their borders. It says, behold, I will raise their different borders that they had, because they had lines set up where pretty much like territory lines, and they ignored them. We went through that account. It says, behold, I will rise them out of their place, whether ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah, the so-called Negroes, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to the people afar off, for the Lord has spoken it. And I could keep going on and on and on and on. Matter of fact, let me get another one, right? Because you could admit it or not, right? And you could come up with crafty little bullshit ass excuses to justify what happened, but you're going to feel it when your ass going slavery, and the so-called Caucasians and all the other nations going to slavery for what they did. This is Isaiah 14 verse 1. For the Lord had mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord, right? For servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives who captives they wore. So-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, we were in captivity under the Europeans, right? So the Europeans are going to go in captivity under us. And they shall rule over their oppressors. They oppressed us, so we're going to oppress them, right? It says, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrows, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, right? It says that thou should take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. And that's why these guys is coming up with this bullshit, because they're mad that we're taking up a proverb against the king of Babylon, against America, and say, how has thy oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? Because we can see this place going down, right? Verse 21, skipping over. It says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the faces of the world with cities. And that's why they coming up with these excuses, because they're scared that they're going to have to pay for what their fathers did to the Native Americans, the Negroes, the Latinos, because 100% they are going to have to pay for it. So I ain't going to make this too long. With that, I'm going to say salvation to you, like Shalom.